140 years ago, there was a man on a mission to save lives. Samuel Plimsoll would walk down to the harbor in London every morning, and he would look out to watch the tall ships being loaded and loaded and loaded. And Samuel knew that many of these ships would set sail and never return to harbor again. They were so overloaded that at the first sign of heavy seas, they would capsize. They even had a term for those ships back then, coffin ships. So Samuel was determined to do something about it, and he lobbied to have a provision added to the Merchant Shipping Act of 1876. And that made it law to have a line painted on the side of every cargo ship. And sailors could only load the ship to the point where the water would touch that line, and then they had to stop for the sake of the ship, for the sake of the cargo, and the sake of the crew. Sailors call that line the Plimsoll line, and it has been saving lives for 140 years. Well, I'm also on a mission to save lives. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to lobby to have it law that we get a load line painted on our bodies. Because we're all speakers, right? We don't need another line on our bodies. But wouldn't a line like that be valuable? Not just for you, but for others, so that they would know when we are at maximum capacity, when we cannot put another thing on our ship without putting ourselves at risk for being overloaded, at risk for capsizing. Well, there isn't a line painted on you, but you know you do have a Plimsoll line. It's not something you see, it's something you feel. So think back to that to-do list you left at home. When you think of everything that you have with family duties, with your office, with your volunteer commitments, how does that load feel? Do you feel light, like you can just sail crisply through the water? Or do you feel a little loaded down, maybe a little sluggish, taking a few waves, going over the bow of your boat? Or are you worried about that next wave that's coming because you know it's going to flip you over? Well, that's your Plimsoll line. And I want to encourage you to know what that feels like. Because when you know that you're near your line, you can take action to lighten your load. So in the time we have here today, what I would like to do is give you the A to Z guide to respecting your Plimsoll line. So that when you leave here from this convention, wherever you go on your journey, you will be aware of your line and take actions so that you are not overloaded and putting yourself at risk for capsizing. So are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So I want you to be aware of the load that you're carrying and believe that it can be balanced, because you are captain of your ship and you're in charge of your destiny. You decide what energizes you and what flattens you. Be generous when examining what you are holding on to. Identify if it still serves you, and if it's just junk, kiss or kick it overboard. Because taking loving care of yourself is the most loving thing you can do for others. So make adjustments and say no to what no longer serves you so you can say yes to new opportunities. And use your Plimsoll line as a prompt, not so that it makes you queasy or puts you at risk of capsizing, but so it's a real guide to remind you that self-care is self-preserving. Because you are a treasure, unique, one of a kind. And knowing that will make your voyage one of wondrous exploration, yielding not endless to-do lists or exhaustion, but instead a life of zest. What kind of a world would that be? Fellow CAPS members, that's my thought for today that's worth sharing.